23rd, whatever, Thursday in late October, about a week before. I guess the 22nd, right? 23rd. Anyway, 2025, and I come to you live from Israel once again to talk to you about stuff. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about something kind of dark, very dark, that is happening right now. It has been happening for years, which is the Christian genocide in Nigeria. And by Christian genocide, I mean Christians are being genocided in Nigeria. For the past couple of years, we've been probably hearing a lot about the supposed genocide in Gaza, where 60,000 people were killed by the IDF. Those 60,000 people included among them around 30,000 or so Hamas terrorists. Even if you want to say it's only 10 or 15 or 20,000 Hamas terrorists, and the rest are all non-combatants. Sure, even if you want to say they were all innocent, even if you want to say every one of the 60,000 was a non-combatant, and Israel just murdered a bunch of innocent people for 2 years, and not a single terrorist died, which is, you'd have to be insane to think that, but if you want to believe that, you believe that. That 60,000 pales in comparison to what's happening in Nigeria and to what's been happening in Nigeria against the Christians of Nigeria by guess who? Muslim violent people, right? It's not Christians killing Christians. No, it's extremely violent Muslims who are literalists. It's not to say that all Muslims are bad, because they're clearly not. There's 2 billion Muslims in the world. They're not all violent. Many of them are moderate. They're not extremists in their view of violence. Right? They're not literalist in their reading of the Quran and their interpretation of the Hadiths and stuff. They just want to live their life chill and peaceful. But there is a significant percentage, even if it's just 10% of the 2 billion Muslims in the world, that's 200 million, who are supportive of using extreme violence to spread their view of Islam, their extremely violent view of it, which is to forcefully conquer the world, forcefully colonize the world, force people to convert, and if they refuse to convert, either kill them or make them dhimmis that are forced to pay a jizya tax to the point where they are humiliated. That is literally the purpose of that jizya tax, or to make them sex slaves or other kinds of slaves. Those are your 4 options with that. Right? They are extremely violent people, and they are literalists. And you have the same type of extremely violent jihadi Islamists running around Nigeria right now, who are killing Christians dozens a day, sometimes hundreds a day, sometimes more than 1,000 a day. It's happening since years. Why haven't you heard about it? If you care so much about the human rights of the people in Gaza, why hasn't Greta Thunberg led a flotilla to Nigeria to bring humanitarian aid to the Christians? Isn't she a Christian? Wasn't she at least born one? Being that she's from Sweden and all? Probability is pretty high, right? She's supposedly a Christian. Maybe she's an atheist now. I don't know what she is, but you'd think she would care about the Christians in Nigeria at least as much as the Palestinians in Gaza. They're human beings after all, right? What difference should it make what religion they believe in? If she's a humanitarian activist BS, which she claims to be, which she obviously isn't. By the way, have you noticed that since the war in Gaza has come to a ceasefire, not a word from the genocide crowd. Not a word. Not a single protest supporting the ceasefire. For 2 years, they were saying, ceasefire now, ceasefire now. Now there's a ceasefire. Now they can't even say, yay, we're happy about it. And of course, we know the reason why. Because they were never interested in the ceasefire in the first place. They're only interested in demonizing Israel and the Jewish people. They're only interested in that sort of thing, including attacking our allies and friends around the world, including friends of ours like Tommy Robinson from the UK, who has just been in Israel for like a week or so. And I don't know if he's still here or not. I think maybe he is, but maybe he's wrapping up his visit. But He's done a lot of great reporting here. I don't have to agree with everything he says about problems in the UK or whatever, but he is, I think, an increasingly important figure in UK activism and politics, even if he doesn't become a politician himself. He's probably not the type of person that would be very electable in many places in England, although I bet you there are definitely some constituencies that would vote for him. And he's a great supporter and friend of Israel, and has been increasingly so for many years since he started to learn about the situation here. And this is not his first visit here. He was invited this time by the government of Israel through the Minister of Diaspora Affairs, Aviram Chikli, who invited him, officially on a state visit, essentially. But he came here to do his own independent journalism, ask questions independently, and all that. And he came here because he thinks it's important. So, what happens in Israel is a warning for the rest of the world. But it's not the only place where there's violence by Islamists, right? We see it in Nigeria. We see it in Yemen. We see it, in the war that happened between Ethiopia and Eritrea. We see it in Syria. We see it in Lebanon. Where there are Islamists, there's violence, death, and destruction. In Afghanistan, between Pakistan and India, and between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Right? Everywhere that there are Islamists, there is violence and death and destruction. Now think to yourself, why is that? Well, how can it be that everywhere that there are Islamists, there is violence and death and destruction? Why is that? You're going to blame it on the 0.2% of the population of the world that happen to be Jewish, like every other conspiracy idiot that says, oh, the Jews control everything? Are you really that stupid? Are you that weak? Are you that weak-minded and weak physically that you believe that a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the world that does not control the banks or the media in any statistical way that you can ever demonstrate of any significance? Somehow we control the entire world when the President of the United States himself says, I can order the IDF to go into Gaza at a moment's notice and they'll do it? Huh? You have no answer for that because you know I'm right. Because the United States is more influential on Israel than the other way around. Because the United States is a much bigger country with a lot more power. If you don't understand that, you don't understand anything. The US is the world's superpower. Israel is a tiny little country with a tiny number of people relative to the United States. And yes, we have a strong military because we've had to build a strong military over decades of being attacked constantly. And what's happening right now in Nigeria is proof of why it's necessary. Because in Nigeria, where the government is not interested in protecting the Christians, obviously, they are allowing the Muslim extremists, the Islamists, to kill Christians by the thousands, many thousands every year. Many, many, many thousands. Last year, I think it was 7,000. The year before that, even more. Why is it that you don't care? Why is it you only care? You, as I speak generally, you, the world at large, that only seems to care about genocides when the accusation can be lobbied against Israel, even though it's false lobbying against Israel. Right? You can levy that accusation against Israel all day long. It doesn't make it true, but you'll still believe it because you're easily influenced by social media, because you're a fool, because you haven't studied anything about history. You are ignorant of the facts. You don't actually know who is genociding who and who is attempting to genocide who. You don't actually know. You think that Israel is genociding dozens, but you don't care about the fact that Muslims kill Christians and Muslims kill Muslims all day long like it's hotcakes. That's literally how they mistreat each other. Right? You know how many people died so far in the war in Yemen in the last 10 years? You have any clue? Do you know how many people died in Lebanon, Syria, any of these places? No? If you don't know, shame on you. I tell you these numbers constantly in my videos. I help you learn and understand this stuff. If you haven't internalized it by now, shame on you. And yeah, I mean you. You, the person who doesn't know the numbers. I mean, shame on you. If you don't know the numbers by now, if you can't name for me a single victim of any of these wars, shame on you. If you can't name for me a single Arab, Muslim victim of any of these wars, shame on you. I can name you dozens of them off the top of my head. You know why? Because I actually care. Yes, I care about even the Muslims. Why wouldn't I? They're human beings too. And the fact that you pretend to care about people who you clearly do not care about, that is a shame on you. That speaks volumes for how little you care about your fellow human beings. You clearly do not care about them, or you would at least know the names of some of them. At least one. In all of these conflicts around the world, right now there's 30 major conflicts happening around the world between countries. Yeah, you can say, well, there's less now because Trump made peace between 8 countries. Sure, he made peace. He resolved 8 wars. Sure. You want to believe that? Believe that. Whatever. I don't care. Has he made great efforts? Yeah, he's made great efforts. Has he actually achieved peace treaties in these cases? No, actually, he hasn't. But it's okay. He's gotten close in some cases. In some other cases, he's gotten not quite as close, but he's still made efforts and strides and has achieved some kind of advancement in a bunch of cases. That's true. But it's not the point. The point is that there are dozens of major conflicts happening around the world right now. And you can't even name a single victim. After all I've told you about this for years and years, after all you should have learned from other, you know, creators, if you want to call them that, YouTubers, people on social media spreading information about these wars, and you can't name a single victim in any of these wars? Like, can you even name a Palestinian that's been killed? And there have been many Palestinians killed. Can you even name one? No? Shame on you. Can you name one Yemenite child who's been murdered or starved to death? Can you name one? No? Shame on you. Can you name one Syrian child or woman or man who has been killed or starved or otherwise, their life has been devastated by the war? No? Shame on you. What about a Lebanese? No? What about Sudan? South Sudan and Sudan, they had a major war. Do you know that? Oh, you can tell me, oh, it was 15 years ago. Uh huh. Can you name a single victim? You know they still fight, right? They have skirmishes along the border, right? You know that there's Muslims from Sudan who go into South Sudan and kill people, right? You know there's people from Chad who go into those countries and also do terrible things, right? Muslims from those countries from Chad who go into Sudan and do damage, and who go into South Sudan and do damage. You know that, right? There are Muslim extremists in Chad who arm the Muslim extremists in Sudan to go kill people in South Sudan, which are Christians, because South Sudan, in case you don't know, is a Christian nation. These people have been Christian longer than your country has existed if you live in the West. They've been Christian since pretty much the time shortly after Jesus was alive. They were some of the very first people to have the gospel spread unto them by Christian proselytizers who traveled to Africa, among the first places they went to spread the word of Jesus. And you can't even name a single one. In those countries where there are literally Christians who are from Christian families that have been Christians longer than your country has ever existed. And you're gonna say, whoa, what are you talking about? My European country has been a country for thousands of years. Yeah, your European country thousands of years ago was a bunch of pagan hooligans, barbarians, and other kinds of pagans under the Roman Empire or the Visigoths or Ostrogoths. Or maybe you're an American and your country hasn't even been around for 300 years as the United States. Or you're Canadian, same thing. Or you're anywhere in South America also, where your country is also not more than a couple hundred years old or a few hundred years old. Your country has not had Christianity in it for more than a few hundred years. You're talking about countries in Africa that have been I'm talking about countries in Africa that have been Christian for almost 2,000 years. And you can't name any of the victims of the countries where these Christians have been since practically the time of Jesus. And you call yourself a Christian? You just ignore them because your life is convenient? Do you ignore them because they're black? Or do you ignore them because there's no Jews involved? In either case, you should be ashamed of yourself. In either case, you're a racist. You're racist because you don't care about the blacks, and you're racist because you don't care about the Jews. Shame on you. May you never experience such horrors in your life. But for God's sake, can't you at least do something to help them? Donate, if you can, to some charitable cause that's in that area. Like donate to a church in Nigeria. Send them something. Pray for them, for God's sake. Make a video. Talk about it. Post about it on social media. Tell your friends. Maybe do a demonstration. Demand the end of the genocide in Nigeria. Why don't you? Why don't you care about that? Demand the end of killing of Christians across Africa by Islamists in many countries, as I've just explained to you, like in South Sudan. Why don't you care about them? And you call yourself a Christian? And by the way, if you're not a Christian, you call yourself a human being? You call yourself humane and caring? But you don't care that people in Nigeria are being killed regardless of their religion? They're being killed for religious reasons? And you don't care? And you don't demonstrate for them? The same way you went out and marched on the street and said, oh, Israel bad, genocide in Gaza, and all this stupid nonsense you were saying? And now crickets. Because of the ceasefire in Gaza, now you can't be bothered. Oh, it's October. It's time to watch your favorite TV show. It's time to get ready for holiday shopping season. Come Halloween, you're going to be all over the internet looking for deals on things to buy. Shame on you. Like I said, this isn't going to be an easy video. This isn't meant to be an easy video for you. This is meant to bring you some hard truth and slap you in the face if you're one of these people who's been going to these stupid protests and been saying, oh, Israel bad, genocide in Gaza, bad. You're a moron. You're a retard. You're a special kind of retard. You're full of hate in your heart, and you should be ashamed of yourself. You obviously were not taught good values. You were taught to hate. You were not taught to love. Shame on you. So if I sound a little bit upset, because I am, because I care about my fellow brothers, I don't care what religion they are. It makes me sick to see people in Nigeria being butchered. And it should make you sick too. And if you haven't seen it, go learn a thing. Go watch some of those social streams that you like to watch. Look up Nigeria. Look up Nigerian genocide. Look up Nigerian funeral. And you'll see Nigerian mass funeral. You'll see. Christian mass funeral in Nigeria. Look it up. There are endless videos, sadly, of mass funerals for Christians being slaughtered every single day. It is absolutely horrendous and horrific what's happening there. And your lack of empathy, and your lack of caring, and your lack of demonstration of goodwill says everything that we need to know about you. Everything and more. You clearly don't have a heart. You clearly do not care. Because if you did, you wouldn't stay silent now. You'd be doing everything you can to stop the actual genocides happening in places like Nigeria right now, in the real world, in real time, in front of your face, before your own eyes. It is undeniable. And yet there you sit comfortably in your house in the West, pretending like everything's fine there. It's not. You owe them in the face of massive amounts of danger to their own lives just for being who they are. Shame on you. If you are somebody who does care and who's made an effort, bless you. You're wonderful. Keep being you. Keep doing what you're doing. Spread the message. Spread the message of love. And may that violence end as soon as possible. I wish you well. And hopefully this violence will end ASAP. Meanwhile, that's going to do it for now here. I'll see you in the next video. Shalom from Israel. Peace.